Hi everyone, I hope you're doing great today. If you're watching me right now, whether you know it or not, I want you to know that you are a part of the Great Awakening. I am telling you, I mean it. Thank you so much for standing by me, and thank you guys for the prayers. It does help a whole lot. Please remember to subscribe to our channel. It's very, very, very important, okay? So I want to give us a few quick updates on Russia. But before I give us the quick update on Russia, I published 4 videos the last time. And many people were wondering why I just dumped 4 whole videos at the same time, right? Now, before I published those videos, I got signals from YouTube that they didn't want me to publish some of the videos. And the reason they were giving me didn't make sense to me. And the first threat they gave to me was that, of course, I wasn't going to get the video monetized, which of course, you already know by now. I don't really care. If the money comes, thank God. If it doesn't come, I don't really care, to be honest. And so I said, well, you know what? Let me publish all the videos at once so that if for any reason they decide to give me a strike for telling you the truth, then it will be that you already have all the videos, and I wouldn't be regretting not posting all the videos at once. That's why I dumped 4 videos at the same time. And most of you must have seen the stuff that I was sharing with you in those videos, how that the so-called Amaze.org on YouTube is busy marketing immorality, sexual perversion to our children on a daily basis. And YouTube is allowing them, but I would make a video about Travis Scott's show and people that died there, and YouTube would put a permanent restriction on that video till today. And so many other videos that I've made. But it's okay to teach children pornography and encourage them to masturbate and do all kinds of nonsense. This is the world we live in. That's why basically my channel exists, to help you understand the times in which we are. I'm like the son of Issachar, as the Bible says. The sons of Issachar are the ones who understand the times. And I'm trying to help you understand the times in which we live, because if you do, it will help you to prepare much better, okay? That's what we're doing. That's why I thank God that many of you have reacted to it in a very positive way. And I think we should take it a little further for people who were suggesting reporting the channel or taking even further action, going to different schools, especially in South Africa, in other parts of Africa. Go to different schools and find out if there are schools that are in partnership with Amaze. Begin to initiate legal action against them. Begin to report them. Do whatever it is you can do within your own little capacity to shut these people down. God created us into this world and gave us the power and said, take dominion. And these minions, these demonic agents in human skin are supposed to be answerable to us. We should be able to decide how they operate in our sphere. Unfortunately, that is not the case. But because you have become a part of the awakening, a part of the resistance, I think we can build up an army to fight against this wickedness. Now, in the other video that I put out, I spoke about Russia. And I told you guys what was going on, or what is going on between Russia and Ukraine. You know, I wasn't making a prediction. I wasn't making a prophecy. I was breaking down for you the matrix. I'm trying to decode the code for you. And you can see it has played out right now. Did you listen to the Secretary General of NATO? He just made a speech about an hour or 2 ago. And he was basically saying that up until this moment, despite the videos that Russia was showing the whole world or sharing with the whole world, that they have started pulling back their troops to the bases from Crimea, from Belarus and other places, they say that they haven't seen any proof on ground. NATO guys are saying that they have satellite images to show that Russia has indeed not pulled back their soldiers from those bases. They have proofs. That's what he's saying. They say they are very sure, and that they have shared the intelligence with so many people that satellite images cannot lie. But then we all woke up today and saw that Russia was sharing videos of troop pullback from Crimea and other places. NATO is saying, no, it's not true. that they don't have any concrete evidence that Russia has actually pulled back their troops, that they don't see any sign of de-escalation from Russia. In other words, the status quo is still maintained. Even though he says there's some type of cautious optimism, he still says that the kind of military that Russia has put around Ukraine is the largest troop build-up since the end of the Cold War in Europe. This is what is going on. And now look at the major escalation that was announced by the Secretary of NATO.
Moscow has made it clear that it is prepared to contest the fundamental principles that have underpinned our security for decades, and to do so by using force. I regret to say that this is the new normal in Europe. Therefore, today, ministers decided to develop options for further strengthen NATO's deterrence and defense, including to consider establishing new NATO battle groups in Central and Eastern and Southeastern Europe. And they welcomed the offer by France to lead such a battle group in Romania. Our military commanders will now work on the details and report back within weeks.
Keep in mind, the reason that Russia was amassing troops around Ukraine and wanting to, or posturing as if they want to invade Ukraine, was simply because Ukraine was intent or is intent on joining NATO. Ukraine doesn't want to become a part of the Soviet Republic because as at this moment, Russia has lost more than 10 of its former allies who were part of the old Soviet Republic that collapsed many years ago. They've lost about 10 of them: Macedonia, Slovenia, a lot of them, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, all of them have joined NATO. And Russia did not bargain for this. Russia never wanted this to happen. There are more than 10 of the former communist nations have joined NATO. Now, Russia used to actually use those nations as buffers around Russia. So if anyone or any enemy wanted to attack Russia, Russia would actually ward them off by using those nations that were around it, because Russia is very massive. So they were like buffers between Russia and Europe and basically the western part of the world. But today, almost all the buffer nations have now joined NATO and become part of the potential enemy of Russia. And now NATO is saying we are willing to admit the last remaining ones that are still there left that have not joined. And Russia is like so agitated and aggravated, like it cannot happen. You've taken all these ones and you now want to take this one again, then what am I left with? That's why Russia is losing their minds. So Russia now said you cannot do it. That's why they amassed troops around Ukraine, because they said they need an assurance from NATO and America and the Western world that nobody will ever take Ukraine away from them or let Ukraine join NATO. And Ukrainians are saying, we want to join NATO because that's where our future is. We don't have any future with Russia. And Russia says no. Russia is only talking about territorial integrity. Ukraine is talking about economic empowerment and prosperity, because they believe that joining NATO will give them that edge. But Russia doesn't care about that. Russia cares more about security. And the whole world understands that. So if Russia could take that kind of action because of Ukraine being intent on joining NATO, imagine what Russia will do now when the breakaway nations from Russia that left the Soviet Republic and joined NATO, when they will now start hosting NATO military armaments and structures and combat forces in their countries, just next door to Russia. Even the people who were journalists who were there at the press conference asked him, do you not think that this is a major provocation that will further aggravate Russia?
Is this not the sort of thing that would antagonize Moscow and therefore should be avoided at this critical time?
So what we do is defensive, but when we see this massive Russian military buildup combined with threatening rhetoric, proposing something which is actually formulated as a kind of ultimatum that if we don't accept this and that, then there will be what they call military technical consequences. And we know the track record of Russia using force against neighbors. Then, of course, we have to take that seriously. And that's the reason why we, in a defensive way, have increased our presence in the East and are considering to increase it further to make sure that there's no room for miscalculation or misunderstanding about our willingness to protect and defend all allies.
And the guy said that this is not going to be the new normal. Guys, so if you live in Europe, if you live in Africa, anywhere in the world pretty much, you have to re-listen to that press conference again. When he said that it will be the new normal, it means that Europeans and people who reside in Europe and other parts of the world are on a constant state of preparedness for war. And we're talking about war on a global scale. And what do you call that? It's called world war. There's no way NATO is going to go to war with Russia and Russia gets to fight alone, or America doesn't join NATO to fight and China doesn't join Russia to fight and some other people don't get involved in that. It might be delayed a little bit now, but this is the tone this is the precedent that has been set by this speech made by the NATO Secretary General. That's the precedent. It's been set already. They say that generals are going to get in touch, the military leaders are going to get in touch with them in a matter of weeks, and they are going to decide on where to push their combat troops, combat ready for war, by the doorsteps of the man who amassed so many military men around Ukraine just on the point that Ukraine was planning to join NATO. And the reason was he didn't want any NATO military by his doorsteps. Now NATO is taking the force, taking the fire to him. So you see where our world is headed. That's why in that video, I explained very, very clearly that there is seemingly a concerted effort on the side of the West to kind of really provoke this war and make it happen. And I kept saying to myself, I wish that Russia would just avoid this temptation, ignore this provocation, and just resist it and say, no, I'm not going to accept it. Because it's also in the best interest of Russia. How can Russia accept to go to war at a time that China is not even ready? China is still hosting the Olympics. And I said it in that video. If Russia had allowed itself to be provoked into war, if Russia did not do the kind of PR they just did, and they actually fall for that and go to war, they'd be fighting alone and they will be overpowered. So there's so much that is going on that is not known to so many people. This war, they are intent on making sure it happens. Because if it doesn't happen, like I said to you, and I'm probably the only person on the continent of Africa telling you this, the nations of Europe, the Western countries, their cities, their major cities are up in flames with protests against mandates. In fact, their toy boy in Canada, the so-called Trudeau, is on the verge of losing his mandate as the Prime Minister of Canada because of these protests. He's so erratic. He just initiated the Emergency Act the other day. Out of nowhere, so many people are against him, even members of his own party are rejecting that. People in the opposition are fighting him for that. How can you initiate the Emergency Act over people who are carrying out peaceful protests in their country? You said that power belongs to the people. How come power now no longer belongs to the people? Because you are a tyrannical leader. The guy is a tyrant. He looks at China and he feels, oh my gosh, I wish China was Canada. That's what he's probably thinking. The Canada is Canada and China is China. The Trudeau wants to bring China to Canada and the people are resisting him. The more he tries to become silly, the more the people actually gather to protest his lunacy in Canada. So these people know, and he's not the only person going through this. Jacinda, or whatever she calls herself, in New Zealand, and the rest of them are going through the same thing. The mainstream media will not show you, but these guys are going through hell. The protests are growing every day, and that's why I keep wondering, what is wrong with our African presidents? Those of you who are still carrying out this mandate thing, even tightening your measures, telling people that they can't move, they can't do this unless you do this. If you're not fully vaccinated, you cannot do this. How can you be doing this on the continent of Africa? I am asking you, with all due respect, Your Excellencies, how can you do this to your people? In Africa, we have the lowest infection and death rate ever recorded since this whole thing broke in 2020. Everybody knows. How come we now have the strictest of measures to deal with this thing? Europeans are living in very cold regions, and if they say that it's high in their place, it's understandable. But look, UK has now stopped all this mandate thing. They've already abolished all of it. They've stopped it all together. You all watched it. How come Africans who have far more resistance to this thing are still being held under lock and key by your restriction that you are imposing on people's movement and activities every day on the continent of Africa? How can you be an African child and behave as though you are the child of a foreigner? How can you do this, sir? Ma, how? I look around and people send me details of how their own president is still tightening measures. Look all over Europe, they are loosening, they are already relaxing these measures. They are easing these measures. People are beginning to gain their freedoms back. Why is it that Africa is ready to show that they are the best slaves ever known to mankind? Your slave masters have eased the restrictions. Why not follow through? Forget about the shame that comes with it. Just follow through. It doesn't matter if people say, oh, you're not doing it because they did it. It doesn't matter. But do what is right in the sight of God and in the sight of man. Stop restricting the movement of people on the continent of Africa. We are free people by right, by nature. I don't mean to be pissed with anybody, but I think that Africa should know better. African leaders should know better. The time has come. And these are all the reasons why I believe that the Western nations are very eager to see this happen, this war happen. You can always tell by listening to mainstream media, which they all own and sponsor. And you can tell how much they really wanted the war to happen. And I think that at the end of the day, it's only a matter of time before this thing goes down. Because if it doesn't, all these Western cities and nations are going to go through hell with protests that cannot be controlled anymore. Going from France to Australia, to New Zealand, to Canada, to America now, to everywhere. It's going to spread like wildfire. Eventually, it's even going to spread to Africa. And I hope that these African presidents will do what is right before Africans will catch up with these protests and turn everything upside down. I pray that is not the case. May God bless you and keep you through these turmoils and this interesting season in our lives as humans.